Folks, it looks like thousands of troops are headed towards the Middle East, and this war is going to escalate massively. We're all worried about World War III, a draft, and it is looking more and more real by the day. There could be a significant ground invasion on the way in Iran, and it's a really bad news if you don't fancy yourself as a fighter in World War III. This isn't great news, okay? This is being reported about absolutely everywhere. Let's see what Philly DeFranco had to say about it before I show you some more mainstream media reporting on the fact that there are thousands of Marines headed towards the Middle East for a ground invasion.
U.S. boots on the ground's looking like a real possibility right now. Hegseth just approved a request from Central Command for a Marine Expeditionary Force. That's around 2,500 Marines, several warships, and the amphibious assault ships that you'd need to actually get troops onto a shore. Now, Marines, they've already been involved in this conflict, but the difference here is that an Expeditionary Force exists for one purpose: to invade. And the timing here matters because it comes after Iran successfully shut down the Strait of Hormuz, cutting off oil for much of the world, and after Trump admitted that Iranians probably aren't going to rise up against the regime like he had hoped. And one possible target is Kharg Island, where Iran ships out 90% of its oil. But also, if U.S. troops enter Iran, it completely undermines Trump's messaging that the war will end soon, though he's already walking that back by saying that he'll, and this is a real quote, feel it in my bones when the war should end. That's it. That's how the President of the United States is deciding the goals and timeline of a war. Vibes. So in the meantime, follow to stay in the loop.
So Trump's vibe coding this war. He says he's going to feel it in his bone. Maybe his bone spurs is where he's going to feel it. Shortly after this deployment was announced, okay, it would be breaking news that the US had officially attacked Iran's, arguably they're calling it the absolute crown jewel of the country and their primary oil hub, Kharg Island. And it makes you wonder, do you think the US are going to be invading and occupying this island? Sounds a bit Russia-y to me.
Start with Ryan Smith at the live desk with what our military could target next as more troops are being sent to the region. Ryan?
Dee, President Trump saying today, quote, U.S. forces obliterated military targets on Kharg Island. Now, that is a small island in the Persian Gulf and Iran's primary terminal for all of that country's oil exports. He then added on Truth Social here, quote, for reasons of decency, I've chosen not to wipe out the oil infrastructure on the island. However, should Iran or anyone else do anything to interfere with the free and safe passage of ships through the Strait of Hormuz, I will immediately reconsider this decision.
How long now do you think the war is likely to last?
I can't tell you that. I mean, I have my own idea, but what good does it do? It'll be as long as it's necessary. They've been decimated. Their country's in bad shape. The whole thing is collapsing.
And tonight, the Wall Street Journal is reporting a major deployment ahead for U.S. forces to the Middle East, 2,500 Marines, and reportedly an amphibious assault ship. Pentagon officials earlier today stating over 15,000 enemy targets have now been struck, more than 1,000 enemy targets a day, according to Pentagon officials, since Operation Epic Fury began.
So here's some of the footage of the strikes on Kharg Island, okay? They're effing stuff up, all right? Blowing up all kinds of installations and equipment, okay? It's looking pretty dusty. It's looking pretty explosive. So Trump said he decimated the island, all right? This is one of their most important, oil transport hubs. It's it's basically where a lot of the oil, I believe about 90% of the country's oil actually passes through. All of Iran's oil exports are basically in a lot of trouble now because of this. And this looks like they're blowing up airstrips. I mean, when America drops these bombs on you, it's absolute devastation. Just look at the blast. The infrared camera can't even pick up what's going on at a certain point. Absolutely just total destruction now. I can't quite see what they're blowing up there. This just looks like random desert, but they must have equipment or installations there. I don't know if these are people running away or if these are bits of debris, but yeah, it's pretty bad, pretty severe. So the US is just beating it up like Fight Night, basically. Says it's weird recognizing all these names like Kharg Island and Bandar Abbas from bombing them in video games when I was like 14. We got IRL Battlefield before GTA 6. People can't believe it, all right? It's wild to me. Generations who played Battlefield 3, Gen Z and Y will potentially get to fight on Kharg Island in real life. Or if it gets any worse, Tehran Highway, okay? These are just insane, surreal sights, okay? While we get this footage in near real time now, the media cycle has become hourly. I fought on Kharg Island as a young man, okay? So Kharg Island, let me show you a clip that's going to demonstrate to you just how critical this is to Iran's economy. 90% of the entire crude oil production of Iran goes through this hub, and it's gone. It's gone.
Hi, my name is Mikey Kay from the BBC's Security Brief, also a former strategic military planner in the British military. So why is Kharg Island so strategically important to the US? Why are the US trying to seize it? Well, this is why. 90% of Iran's export crude oil comes through that island. 90%. And the reason for that is it's effectively a terminal. And the terminal allows very large tankers that can carry up to 85 million gallons of oil to be able to come up to the terminal quite easily and then come back down the Persian Gulf and out of the Straits of Hormuz out to China. China is the main user of Iranian oil. So why else is it important? It's also the economic lifeline to the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, or the IRGC. And if you take that island and you hold it, then you're effectively cutting off their lifeline, their ability to be able to conduct war. Now, there's been a lot of chatter.
So they're saying that Trump's basically taking away their critical lifeline when it comes to their finances and being able to fund and operate in their war. That'd be great. That would be great if we could actually stop that. But I feel like these guys are willing to fight to the death. Now, there have been reports that the new Supreme Leader, better than the old Supreme Leader, has been injured. There's reports he lost a leg. He's in a coma. He's been maimed. It's pretty serious.
And tonight, in another clear sign that Iran's evil regime is struggling to stay afloat, its newly anointed supreme leader is nowhere to be found. Today, the Secretary of War announced that he was wounded and disfigured. Other reports claim that he's in a coma and isn't even aware of his new role. Here now with reaction, former Deputy National Security Advisor Victoria Coates.
Sorry, but look at that quote. Comatose Mojtaba Khomeini is unaware there's even a war on, and he has no idea he's the supreme leader, despite the regime issuing his first statement. He doesn't even know he's the leader. What a joke.
Former Deputy National Security Advisor Victoria Coates, so great to have you this evening. Thank you for joining us. So what does your gut tell you is the situation with the supreme leader at the moment?
Well, Charlie, good to be with you, too. I mean, what I'm seeing here is chaos in Tehran. There is really no strong decision-making being made. They're kind of firing things off randomly. They're in this kind of weird dialogue with China, and nothing is progressing for them. So my guess is that Mojtaba Khomeini is indeed incapacitated, at least to some extent, if not dead, as was reported earlier today. So they have no central command and control. So they have no response to something like what President Trump did today, which was supposed to be impossible. You're not supposed to ever touch Kharg Island because this is going to destroy energy coming out of the Gulf. Guess what? He said, no, I'm going to do it. I'm going to reach out and touch it. I'm going to destroy the military installations, and if I want to, I'll destroy the energy installations.
So this is something everybody's scared to do, possibly for good reasons. Trump said, I'm going to reach out and touch it. Let me touch it. Let me grab it. Let me grab them by the Kharg Island. Okay. So YouTuber Preston Stewart is a former U.S. Army field artillery officer, and he would give his thoughts on his channel basically about the idea that Marines are now being deployed in the Middle East once again and what this means for the country.
So the United States is deploying a Marine Expeditionary Unit to the Middle East, and they're on their way right now. Now, there's 4 ways this is likely to play out that we're going to run through in today's video, but this is a big step. All right, there's been a lot of talk recently about the possibility of putting U.S. boots on the ground in Iran, and this is the first real step in that direction. And the reason I say that is we've had a significant buildup in the Middle East over the course of the last few months, but it has been primarily air power and naval power. This is the first time, the first large-scale deployment of ground forces to the Middle East since this war began. And it comes amidst increasing talk from senior officials that ground forces are not off the table, everything is in consideration, and senators coming out of briefings recently saying they're more convinced than ever that there will be boots on the ground inside of Iran. Now, the Wall Street Journal broke this story a little over an hour ago, saying the Pentagon is moving a Marine Expeditionary Unit and more warships to the Middle East as Iran steps up its attacks in the Strait of Hormuz. Defense Secretary Hegseth has approved a request from CENTCOM for an element of an amphibious ready group and attached Marine Expeditionary Unit, typically consisting of several warships and 5,000 Marines and sailors. We have some additional details from ABC News where they say that consists of 2,200 Marines. So the main difference there is the Marines would be utilized for some sort of ground force, whereas the sailors manning all of the ships. So there's your difference between 5,000 total personnel, 2,200 Marines. They're coming coming from the 31st Marine Expeditionary Unit, accompanied by the Tripoli Amphibious Ready Group, which consists of the USS Tripoli, USS San Diego, and USS New Orleans, alongside roughly 20 F-35 Bravo Lightning II stealth fighters. Now, there's 4 main directions that this could go, and we have to call out the first one, nothing. It's entirely possible that they head over in this direction, they get off the coast of Iran, or at least in the general vicinity, and nothing happens. They're just there. It's an option for President Trump, and maybe that decision is made to not use them in whatever capacity they're going to be used. That's option number 1. Option number 2, and we're going to pull up a map here. Super fancy stuff. All right, we got Google Earth here to take a look. Iran right in the middle of the screen here. This amphibious ready group is not coming from the United States. It's already forward deployed in the Pacific. So it's coming through the South China Sea right now. So this trek is expected to take around 10 to 14 days. So they're not going to be in the Middle East for another 2 weeks or so. And this isn't like a carrier strike group where they just have to be in the general vicinity. They can start launching aircraft and taking part in offensive operations. The Marines actually have to be like physically there to do the work, right? Or at least very, very close to Iran. So there is going to be a little bit of time before these guys are actually in theater, guys and gals are in theater. And that does raise a little bit of concern that either this war is starting to move in a direction that we hadn't anticipated, and we're calling in reinforcements, or that we kicked off the conflict before we had everything in place. Again, a 10 to 14 day deployment from right now. Like there are...
So that's bad either way, right? They're saying either the war's escalated beyond what we were expecting and we're having to send reinforcements in, or we started the fight before we really had our boys situated where they needed to be. But both of those are very, very scary prospects. And they're saying it could be 10 to 14 days for the Marines to get where they're going. It's not, launching ships off of a frigate. It is a whole boatload of Marines that we're going to have to ship all the way from Asia into Iran. And then, that's a vulnerability. Hopefully they're not under attack. Hopefully they're not under fire. Now, Iran's foreign minister has responded to everything that's happening. Definitely saltiness going around from their side.
Foreign Minister Arakshi, thank you so much for...
This guy, whenever you see this guy rolled out, it's a tough day. This guy's got the worst job right now.
For your time this morning, sir. I wanted to start with the news overnight that the U.S. has carried out a military strike on Kharg Island. The President of the United States said that for reasons of decency, I have chosen not to wipe out all the oil infrastructure on the island. However, should Iran or anyone else do anything to interfere with the free and safe passage of ships through the Strait of Hormuz, I will immediately reconsider this decision. Let me start by asking you about what has happened on Kharg Island and what is Iran's response to these strikes.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I think our armed forces have already answered that they would retaliate if our oil and energy infrastructure are attacked. And they will attack any energy infrastructure in the region which belongs to an American company or an American company is a shareholder. So the reaction would be clear. Last night, they have attacked Kharg Island and Abu Musa Island with, the artillery rocket system, HIMARS as they call it, which is a low-range rockets. And they have done it from the soil of our neighbors. And this is crystal clear that now they are using the territory of our neighbors to attack us by these kind of, rockets. And this is absolutely
Which
unacceptable.
neighbors, sir?
Well, these last night attacks were tracked by our forces, and now it is clear that they are fired from UAE, from 2 locations in the UAE, from in Ras Al Khaimah, and from a location very close to the city of Dubai. And it is very, dangerous that they use highly populated areas to launch, rockets against us. We would certainly retaliate, but we try to be careful not to attack any populated area.
So, yeah, it kind of makes more sense now, right? Where they're bombing Dubai, they're saying that the rockets that have been shooting at them and their islands have been coming from places in the UAE, close to Dubai, Ras Al Khaimah. It is not great. So this all comes as Iran basically have a chokehold over the Strait of Hormuz. They're looking to cause absolute chaos.
I want to show you some strike footage from U.S. Central Command. These are what it describes as Iranian naval vessels being hit at long range, but they just kind of look like speedboats, don't they? Well, you wouldn't know it by looking at them, but these are the types of boats that are capable of bringing down an oil supertanker, or maybe even an American warship, because Iran has retrofitted ships like these to be able to lay underwater mines, which are a top priority for the U.S. right now.
They just have to put 3 mines in there. And once an area is mined, it's never technically unmined.
After days of speculation, the U.S. now firmly believes Iran is laying mines in the Strait of Hormuz. If true, it would mean Iran is doubling down on the single most damaging way it has retaliated against the world, which is to block this crucial waterway right on its southern doorstep, where 1/5 of the world's oil flows out from the Middle East. It's serious enough to have caused the U.S. military to change course. From the president, if Iran has put out any mines in the Hormuz Strait, we want them removed immediately. Less than 1 hour later, the Secretary of War, at the direction of President Trump, Central Command has been eliminating inactive mine-laying vessels in the Strait of Hormuz, wiping them out with ruthless precision. 2 days later, an update from CENTCOM that now they're not just targeting mine-laying ships, they're also striking factories and warehouses where these mines are made and stored.
So mining the Strait of Hormuz is a big problem, okay? A lot of goods, a lot of oil, a lot of rural, a lot of resources go through there. It's a choke point for the Middle East. And if mined, if closed, that could mean the West not getting stuff they need. And it could mean a lot of these other Gulf nations like Dubai, Qatar, they're not getting the resources that they need either. And it's going to cause absolute carnage and chaos out there, okay? So these hidden naval mines, all right, mines in the water, water mines, boat mines, these are now the big challenge that the military of the US and beyond are having to deal with. And it's a big problem. They're scared.
The challenge for the U.S. military is that these mines are just about as asymmetric as war can get. And by that I mean, Iran could spend as little as a few $1,000s building a pretty rudimentary mine that maybe doesn't sink a ship, but it damages it and executes what's called a mission kill, in that it causes just enough harm to force the target to turn away, to go for repairs, abort mission. The US could try to sweep the water for mines, but that's not only very difficult, it's very time consuming.
It will take weeks, if not months, if there is an active minefield in the Persian Gulf, because you cannot do that under enemy fire. You have to do that under at least some form of ceasefire, then you can operate a mine clearing operation.
And literally, if you don't find them, that's not always the most comforting thing, because maybe you've missed them.
And so the U.S. is confronted with this very familiar problem whenever it faces weaker opponents. And that is, as with open combat, the U.S. is powerful enough to win eventually. Like in the Strait of Hormuz, it could position its navy nearby, use sonar, even autonomous robots to scan for mines, detonating them one by one from a distance. Or it could undertake a huge sweeping campaign where you literally drag equipment through the water, equipment meant to mimic the signatures of large ships, triggering mines with brute force. And you don't even have to remove every single mine. You just need to clear a lane, right? Mark them with buoys, create just enough space for shipping traffic to resume until Iran lays another mine, who knows where.
The biggest challenge of mine warfare is the plethora of unknowns. It's unclear how many mines are in the water if you haven't observed them being moved or dropped. It's unclear where the boundaries of the minefield are. Is it even a distinct minefield, or mines just distributed over a wide area? Then where the mines are specifically, of course, is deliberately a mystery.
It takes a grand.
So, yeah, this Strait of Hormuz situation is completely out of control. So, apparently Iran are actively trying to blockade the Strait of Hormuz. They're mining it, you know, they're targeting ships that are sailing through it. And the whole idea of this is to send, you know, the global markets into a tailspin and basically just make it impossible for anything to move through this territory without problems.
New images near the Strait of Hormuz off Iran, where new attacks are now sending oil prices on another wild ride today. This is a tie flagged ship, one of at least 3 vessels that have been struck today in that critical waterway. Thailand's Ministry of Transport says 20 crew members have been rescued. 3, though, remain unaccounted for. We're going to show you a map of the approximate locations of these attacks on ships today in the Strait. From reminder, some 20 million barrels of fuel a day move through this critical shipping route, and it is clearly effectively remains shut down because of this very real threat. Let's get right to Paula Hancock's live in Abu Dhabi for the latest on this. What are you hearing here?
Well, Kate, we just heard from the UK Maritime Agency, and they say that as of now, they believe that about 13 vessels have been impacted since this war started. Now, you mentioned that Thai-flagged ship. We have some more information on that as well from authorities. They said that there was an explosion at the stern and then a fire broke out in the engine room. Now, this is believed to be where those 3 missing sailors were on duty at the time. So 20 rescued by the Omani Navy. We know that the captain told the crew to evacuate. They got in lifeboats and were then saved, but 3 still missing at this point. So it is a great concern that Iran appears to be ratcheting up these attacks on vessels in the Strait of Hormuz and in these very critical waters. Now, one of the vessels...
So, look, they've got the waters on lock. They've got the Strait of Hormuz on lock. It's pretty bad. It's pretty damning as far as, the unintended consequences of this war. And, things are looking like they might be getting much worse. So, YouTuber and streamer Atriok would basically break down exactly what this means and exactly what's happening at the Strait of Hormuz, and just how serious some of the implications are of this blockade.
Talking about serious problems facing the American economy in 2026. Let's talk about oil. Now, a couple things we need to explain about oil before we move on. Oil is priced in barrels and sent around the world. And based on the price of a barrel of an oil, you can estimate certain things about how people in the economy will be feeling, because most economies run on oil. Almost all major economies run on oil right now. If the price of a barrel of oil is between $40 and $60, smiley face, people are feeling good, okay? Gas is cheap, fertilizer is cheap, plastics are cheap. Things are feeling, it's a stimulant for the economy. People just feel better. Things move smoother. It's big smiles. If a price of a barrel of oil gets to, by the way, this is where we've been. This area, maybe around 60, 65, but this is the area we've been in for the past few months, and it's helped cushion the blow of other economic problems. If the price of a barrel of oil gets up to 70 or 80, that's a warning. Now, this is a really good spot for oil companies. They love this spot because people grumble about it, people are angry about it, but it doesn't really cause too much political backlash, too much damage, and they get a lot of profit. Oil companies love this because nobody gets too mad at them, but they're still making money. So they prefer not to be here, but this is survivable. It's just annoying. If it gets to $100 or more, that is panic. That is when gas prices start to become really pinching for the average person, along with a whole bunch of other knock-on effects we'll get into. $100 per barrel is a panic. And if you don't like hearing it from me, because I'm an ugly streamer, and you want to hear from a famous professional actor, all right, well, I got the show Landman for you.
Well, you want oil to live above 60, but below 90. And don't get me wrong, we're still printing money at 90, but gas gets up over $3.50 a gallon, it starts to pinch. It hits 100, every product in America has to readjust its price.
So, what could possibly be happening that would cause us to be talking about crazy things, outlandish things, like $100 a barrel oil? Well, it turns out this war in Iran has had some knock-on effects on the oil market, specifically regarding this little band of land called the Strait of Hormuz. We've talked about it before, but it is becoming very, very much in play. Now, this video will show you what has happened to tanker traffic, because I want you to understand, 20% of the world's oil goes from all of these countries into this Gulf, and then it gets on tankers, goes to this tiny little gap, and it goes out into the world. So much oil goes out here. This is tanker traffic in the past few days. Very, very active, slowing down, skirting the edges, and then basically non-existent. Then basically a crawl. The oil is no longer flowing, which is going to have many...
See, it's like all these ships that were going through, all the vessels that were going through it, super slowed down. And then you get these couple little brave souls that break their way through. And those are the ones that are risking certain destruction and mines and death. Look at just the odd one starts going through now.
The oil is no longer flowing, which is going to have many knock-on effects, okay? Now, there's still, again, as the oil price rises, all the tankers stuck in here really have an incentive to try to get out. It's very profitable to get out, and being stuck here is also losing them a lot of money. So a few of them do try to run it. For example, this ship turned off its transponder at midnight and went for it to avoid getting struck.
I was just thinking that because I was seeing ships get up to about there, disappear. I was thinking, did they get shot down? They get sunk, but they're turning off their transponders. They don't want them even to know. They're going through the cover of darkness, slipping through there. And it's terrifying. That's no way to conduct international business.
Few people are trying to do it. And because Iran has said they won't strike China has free passage. They said China is our ally and China can go through. However, Chinese ships are still not going through because they can't get insured. They're too scared to do it because if they do get struck, it's billions and billions lost. They are all stuck in the strait. However, that hasn't stopped other less safety-minded tankers from pretending to be Chinese. Basically, 10 different vessels have declared themselves Chinese, changed their transponder, and made a run for it through the Gulf. The actual Chinese ships are again staying in the Gulf. No one, not even Beijing. The thing is, without the insurance markets functioning, no tanker will do it because the risk is so catastrophic. The amount of money you lose is so gargantuan. But a few of them are going for it as pretending to be Chinese. Again, this carrier right here, which is named the Iron Maiden and is from Japan, changed its name to China Owner.
China
and
Owner.
made a break for it while hugging this side of the wall. And that is a real world thing that's happening now. That's the difference between generational wealth or being dead.
So they're changing, the ships changed their names to China Owner. All right. Apparently that's working. All right. Apparently that's working. The Iranians ain't too smart. They haven't seen through that one yet. But that's a Japanese ship that is breaking through, busting through, changing its signal to China Owner. Okay, now this Strait of Hormuz, this is nothing new. This is something just popped up. Oh, whoopsie, we're accidentally using this shipping route for everything that we need. This has been a point of contention for Iran and the US all the way back to the 1980s.
Because of this strategic importance, that the Strait of Hormuz has become a place where long simmering tensions between the US and Iran are playing out. And it all began with the tanker war.
Saddam Hussein ordered his troops across the Iranian frontier after a series of border skirmishes.
War broke out in the Middle East in 1980 after Iraq invaded Iran. The US helped Iraq in its campaign against Iran by providing military intelligence behind the scenes. When Iraq wasn't able to topple Iranian forces over land, it turned its attention elsewhere.
Missiles against tankers are the weapons that both sides are using to try and break the stalemate in their war on land.
Iraq moved to cut off Iran's main export. It began attacking tankers carrying oil from Iranian ports in what became known as the Tanker War.
So they've had this done to them by Iraq, and it was all the way back in the day that the US and Iraq, they was locked in, they was cool, they was fucking with Saddam, all right? Then it all went left. Just goes to show you got to be careful. You got to be careful out here when you got the Americans on your side. But this is now basically the tables are being turned on the Americans.
Iran eventually responded by attacking oil tankers moving to and from the Gulf states, some of which were supporting Iraq. But with Iraq being aided by the West, Iran had to get creative. It turned to sea mines and planted them around the Strait of Hormuz. For the first time, Iran was using the disruption of oil moving through Hormuz as a weapon. But these disruptions finally drew the US directly into the conflict.
So last time they pulled this shit, that's what got the Americans over there, dropping bombs.
In 1987, the US stepped in to protect the flow of oil for itself and its allies by escorting tankers. Tensions between the two countries began to escalate. In 1988, a US naval ship struck an Iranian mine, injuring US sailors on board. A couple months later, a US warship mistook an Iranian passenger aircraft for a fighter jet and shot it down over the Strait of Hormuz, killing all 290 passengers.
Ronald Reagan has issued a statement deeply regretting the loss of life in what he calls a terrible human tragedy.
The Iran-Iraq War ended in August 1988, but conflict between the US and Iran continued for decades, and tensions and distrust grew on both sides. And
so this little beef is decades old, and we've literally done exactly what's going on now. We've done this before. Now, that time it didn't end in World War III, and it makes you wonder, is this time different, or is everybody just getting a little bit too overly worried? Now, basically, you know, the amount of oil supply that is controlled in the Strait of Hormuz is staggering, okay? And basically, as we've already heard, you know, this could send oil prices above $100 a barrel, and it's just going to have a drastic effect on the price of oil, and it's going to be a problem.
There's always a huge gap in how much Americans pay for gas, depending on where they live. Last I checked, look at the average price in California, for example, compared to the average price in Kansas. But no matter which state you look at, they all have one thing in common. Prices have broadly been going up because the price of crude oil has broadly been going up.
Israeli strikes on 4 oil storage depots and a refining facility in Tehran.
Iran's Revolutionary Guard is sending radio transmissions to ships warning them that, quote, no ship is allowed to pass the Strait of Hormuz.
Oil prices have been on a roller coaster and remain quite a bit higher this morning.
Donald Trump acknowledges this is happening, but he calls the jumps short-term increases, a very small price to pay for peace, and only fools would think differently. He might be right. Here's the international benchmark price of crude. Here's the short-term price spike he's referring to, peaking at just under $120 US a barrel. And here's the subsequent drop that Trump's alluding to. But he might also be wrong. That critical waterway through which Middle East oil flows out to world markets is still largely closed. Iran has meanwhile threatened to strike back at oil facilities in neighboring countries. This puts into play as much as a third of the world's oil production. If you can tolerate oil at more than $200 per barrel, says Iran, continue this game.
Well, I mean, it's plausible. If this goes on for another month and you're just not seeing those tankers go through, that's absolutely plausible to hit $200 a barrel.
So they're saying it could go up to $200 a barrel. They're saying 100. If it gets above 100, it's complete carnage, and it could go to 2. And Iran are warning that it could go to 2. Now, they do want to scare everyone. They do want to strike terror into the global community to stop what's going on. But yeah, this is just definitely getting really concerning. So look, they're sending troops over there. The Strait of Hormuz is getting mined. I just really hope the draft doesn't happen. Okay, let me know what you guys think of this conflict. All right, I'm just trying to keep up with this. I'm learning about this along with you guys, and we're learning about this together, and we're keeping track of what's been going on together. But it is really concerning. Okay, I really hope things ease up soon, and I hope that things move in a better direction if possible. But if not, gonna have to suit up and get our battlefield on. Okay. It's crazy. But anyway, let me know what you thought of that video. If you want me to keep covering the Iran conflict, I will do so. I'll be back with some more videos later today. Got some main channel stuff I need to work on. Juggling quite a lot of stuff at the moment. It's a lot, but I'm trying to keep on top of it. So I hope you guys are enjoying the content, and I will catch you guys in the next video. Until next time, gang, I'm out of here. Peace.